to Fruity Knitting. I'm Madeline.
And I'm Andrea.
And this is episode 158. Fruity Knitting is your gateway to knitting inspiration from around the world, as well as extra snippets of travel, history, and storytelling that we hope adds joy to your life and brings a smile to your face.
And we've got a really full program today, but it's a program that I'm particularly excited about. So our feature interview is with Arbon Textiles, which is an artisan spinning mill in the south of England in County Devon. And they're well known for their very beautiful heathered worsted spun yarns. And next year, during our knitting retreats at Bovey Castle, the participants are going to get to tour Arbon Textiles as part of the extra activities. So that's really exciting. So I interviewed the founders back in episode 76, and they were John and Juliet Arbon. And since then, they have retired and they've passed the mill on to two former employees, that's Sonia and Helena. And they've brought in lots of fresh energy and new ideas. So naturally, we wanted to go and interview them as well. And we have both really loved Arbon yarns for years now, especially their very unique colour recipes or heathered yarns. So we've decided to create our own small range of custom yarns together with Arbon Textiles. And this is a super exciting project, a little bit daunting, but super exciting.
Yeah.
So the interview is in two parts. In part one, Sonia and Helena will talk about their vintage machinery, which is actually quite funny because each machine has its own personality and they've given it their own names. And they're also going to talk about their own yarn ranges. And then in part two, they explain how they design custom yarns for both designers and small-scale sheep farmers. And they use our project of our custom yarns as a real-life example. So 2 weeks ago, I travelled to the mill in the UK and I spent a full day and a half in a little room blending and hand carding small percentages of fibres in different colours until we came up with a new colour recipe that was as exact as possible to what I had in my imagination. And this was such a fascinating process. It was extremely hands-on and you literally feel like you are creating this yarn yourself. So I'll share more about that also in the program.
Yep, and every June, Arbon Textiles host their annual Open Mill Weekend, which in part takes place in the beautiful historic town hall of South Molton. It's basically a mini fibre festival where you can explore all of Arbon's yarns alongside a few other vendors, and the weekend also features workshops, talks, mill tours of course, and a cosy cafe for you to knit and chat in. The Open Weekend happened just before our interview with Sonia and Helena, so of course we filmed some of the highlights and we included them at the end of this episode for you. And on top of that, we've each got a finished project to show you and bring and brag. And I think we should start with Mum and her beautiful jean cardigan.
Yeah, so as you can see, I've finished it and I'm wearing it. This is a design by the German designer Kolibri by Johana, and Kolibri is the German word for hummingbird. So I think it's actually a success. I certainly feel happier about it now than I did in the last episode. So it's a classic raglan cardigan worked top down in one piece, and the pattern has wavy stripes in alternating panels of garter stitch and lace. And what I particularly love about it is this double knit button band, which you knit on vertically afterwards. This is the first time I had done it. The first time I saw it was actually on the Petita knit design that you
Jenny
did.
jacket.
Yeah. And I really love it. It provides this really firm, lovely kind of finish to a cardigan. And I think I'm going to choose to do this whenever possible in the future.
Yep, I felt the exact same way when I discovered it.
So double knit produces a double fabric, which is sort of interlocking. So you can see it's got stocking stitch on the outside and the inside, and it's just really firm and solid and just does a really nice, neat finish. So I love it. So the pattern itself was very easy to follow. I like the way the design looks. Everything about it was really pleasurable, but I did have some challenges with my yarn choice. So I held these two yarns together and that gave me the recommended gauge of 22 stitches and 34 rows, which is really good because I didn't have to change any maths. Both yarns come from the German company Pasquale, which is pretty close by us. It's just outside of Cologne. Arctic pearl is made from seaweed fibre, and that's 100% lyocell. So it's very soft and drapey and shiny. And the mohair bliss yarn is 60% organic kid mohair and 40% silk. And the colour number is 818. So the fabric produced by knitting these two yarns together actually feels really beautiful. It's very soft and silky and drapey and shiny, but I found it so difficult to work with. 100% lyocell really stretches a lot, so you can't rely on getting a consistent gauge. And in fact, when I wet blocked the cardigan before I knitted on the double knit button band, it actually stretched 10 centimetres in length and also a little bit in width. So that made the sleeves way too long. I had to actually rip them back and take out about 6 centimetres and then knit the cuffs back on again. And so I think that 100% lyocell is okay if you want to knit a garment that's going to be super drapey and oversized, and it really doesn't matter if it stretches 10 centimetres in any direction. But for me, because I like to have things a little bit more tailored and I like to have more control over the end result, I don't think I'm ever going to use 100% lyocell again as a fibre. And also the other thing I wanted to say is that this lacy wavy pattern is a fabric or produces a fabric that's really stretchy anyway. And then the double knit button band is kind of the opposite. Because it's 2 layers of stocking stitch which are quite interlocked, it produces a really firm gauge that's not going to stretch much at all. And then I thought, it's going to be really problematic because they're such opposite fabrics, having 100% lyocell and then sort of kind of imagining what is going to stretch more than the other when it's washed or worn. So I had to do a lot of guesswork as to how loosely I should knit this double knit button band. And the problems with that is if you knit it too loosely, then it actually looks like really ugly knitting. It's kind of loose and sloppy. The stitches don't look good. And also the ends here, they kind of fan out and go wavy. Yeah. So that's the problem if you do it too loosely. If you do it too tight, then this is going to pull up at the front, and it also could pull in around the neck, and it could pucker against this fabric here, which will stretch a lot more easier. So what I did in the end was just a lot of guesswork and using different needle sizes. So I thought that where the buttons are constantly being done up and undone, you need to have a more stiffer or solid fabric. So I used a smaller needle for this section on both parts of it. And then I went up, I think at least 2 needle sizes to knit around the neckline.
Yeah, 2 needle sizes is a lot.
I know. Yeah. If you look closely, you can see this is a bit sloppier than down there.
It doesn't look sloppy.
It kind of works, but it's not perfect. Because it still does pull up here. It pulls up here. So it's kind of, you have to make a compromise. And I thought, okay, I want this to be a bit stiffer and a bit neater, even though it's pulling up. So it's definitely not perfect, but it's still wearable. And I love the colour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so it's my turn now. I have finished another project, which is the Olive Top by Knitting for Olive. It has a very easy sort of leaf-like stitch pattern everywhere. And I'm using their 100% merino yarn, which is a fingering weight, in the colourway Dusty Rose. Now to make this leaf stitch pattern, you basically increase 2 stitches, one on either side of the centre stitch, across the first few rows. And then you knit straight for a bit to add length to the leaf. After that, you decrease again by knitting the 3 center stitches together until you're back to 1 stitch. So it's really easy. And I think 2 episodes ago, I demonstrated a few variations of how to do the knit 3 together. You've got the left leaning, the right leaning, and the centered knit 3 together. And this pattern uses the centered knit 3 together so that the leaves stay symmetrical, because it looks like all of the stitches are pointing in towards the center. So this is a top-down construction. First, you knit 4 identical triangles, so 2 at the front and 2 at the back, in the flat, and then you join those triangles to knit the body into the round. And of course, you add some underarm stitches as well while you do that. Now, the pattern calls for 4.5 pattern repeats, 4 pattern repeats, so 4 of these leaves, from the underarm down to where the hem starts. I actually made it 5.5 pattern repeats because I wanted to wear this top with low or mid-rise jeans without showing my belly button, because I'm not really interested in having crop tops anymore. And I'm really glad I made that decision. I think it was the right
looks
thing
great.
to do.
Yeah.
I think so too. So now it measures 35 centimeters from the underarm down to the bottom of the hem. So after you've done the body, you end with the hem, which is basically half a pattern repeat, and then you cast off and you fold it over to sew the hem into the inside of your top. And because of this leaf stitch pattern, you end up with this lovely little wavy hemline, which is a really pretty feature.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's really great. And it feels like a sturdy hem because you've sewn it over. So the next step was to do these I-cord shoulder straps. But to avoid any nasty surprises due to stretching after things being blocked, I decided to wet and block the body first.
Yeah.
And then I tried it on once it had dried so that I could measure exactly how long the shoulder straps had to be. And then I even took off about 0.5 centimeters from what I measured because I figured maybe this stretches as well. And I think I made the right choice. I could have even taken off a little bit more because, as you notice, this puckers just a tiny bit if I don't pull everything up. And that's the risk that you run if you don't reduce the length here enough. It'll just look sloppy.
It's actually quite perfect. You've done a really good job of measuring.
Thank you. Yeah, you've taught me well. I did this all by myself.
You did, because I remember you asking me, can you help me? But I didn't get around to it.
Yeah, you didn't have time.
But you've done a really good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, looks lovely.
Anyway, you may remember from the last time I spoke about this design that these triangles start with a provisional cast on. And I think this is really clever because it means that you can then pick up those stitches and knit the shoulder straps, making it a seamless shoulder strap, which looks a lot more elegant. So you basically pick up the stitches from all 4 triangles on those provisional cast-ons, and then you knit the shoulder straps, the I-cord shoulder straps, separately until they meet in the center of your shoulder, and that is where you graft them together. I did pretty much this, except for that I knitted all the way to the back. Then I picked up the stitches from the back triangle and knitted only 1 row of the I-cord before grafting it together and then hiding the ends, because I think it's easier to weave in the ends tidily into one of these triangles rather than trying to hide it here. Because
that's a good idea.
When you cut it off, those ends of the that you've woven in can fray a little bit, and the shoulder strap doesn't provide much coverage, so you could have yarn sticking out the side.
Yeah.
I really recommend this design.
We should do a fashion shoot. We've been super busy, so we haven't had time, but it looks so good. It looks really good up close. Well done. Yeah. I know everyone.
Just one more comment. I want to emphasize, if you want to knit this design, go ahead, it's great, but knit a size smaller than what the pattern recommends, because if you go to Ravelry, you'll see that lots of people have gorgeous looking tops that do look like they're slightly too loose on them. And this is actually size extra small, which according to the pattern, I had the recommended gauge, should have given me 14 centimeters of negative ease. It definitely has not given me 14 centimeters of negative ease. And most people don't use merino. They use either a silk or a cotton blend, which will stretch a lot more. So if I had used silk or cotton, this would possibly not have any negative ease on me at all. So just keep that in mind. Apart from that, this is a great design.
That's actually, Pernilla, she's the designer for Knitting for Olive. Yeah. She's a really good designer. She does such classy things. But it is true, we also knitted before. We took a smaller size than what the measurements said.
That was the Barbaro blouse,
Yeah. Now, I know everyone's going to ask, what is this beautiful shawl? This was a gift.
Yes.
From a lovely friend who attended Madeline's wedding, and she gave it to Madeline. We don't know the pattern name, so Dolores, I'm sure everyone wants to know. So can you write in the comments below
what this pattern is called?
And maybe even the yarn, but she's done a very beautiful job. It looks very good.
It's gorgeous, and I happily found out that it works very well with this design.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thanks, Dolores.
And now it's time for part 1 of our interview with Johana Arbon Textiles.
Yeah.
Welcome to Fruity Knitting. So Madeline and I have travelled to Devon in the UK to visit the John Arbon Textiles Mill Open Weekend. So John Arbon Textiles is known for their high-quality worsted yarns and very distinctive colour blends. And I interviewed John and Juliet Arbon 6 years ago in episode 79. And since then, they've retired and they've passed on their legacy to two talented former employees. And over the last 3 years, Sonia and Helena have built on that legacy. They're just bringing lots of fresh energy and new ideas to the mill and its community. And now I'm very happy to be here interviewing them. So thank you for inviting us.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, so to my mind, I imagine taking over a mill is such a big responsibility. So what gave you both the confidence just to step into this role? And also, what do you value most, or what strengths do you value most about each other as business partners?
Well, it's been 3 years since we took over from John and Juliet, and I'd worked here for 5 years before that, so I've got quite a lot of experience of how this business works. And then previous to that, I spent 10 years working in offices in London, so I did a lot of like how a building work runs and how can you do the health and safety and just like all the boring things like accounting and
managing staff.
Managing staff as well, so
Making
all of those sorts of things. Yeah.
And I worked here for 7 years, is it? It's one less than you.
Yes.
Before, and then before that, I worked at Blacker Yarns, which is a yarn business which focuses on really breed-specific wool, and that's based in Cornwall. So I've got over like 12 years, I think, of working in kind of managing yarn businesses. So what I did at Blacker was pretty similar to what I do here, which is kind of managing lots of specials, kind of liaising with people outside of the business, I would say.
Like the sheep farmers.
No, not the sheep farmers.
Okay.
That's Helena's job. More like you and Madeline. So more like special projects.
Okay, like
or if
designers
we do,
or
exactly
festivals.
Exactly.
And things. Yeah.
Collaborations within the industry with other folks or designers a lot of the time. And then if we do like a special project or we have a new yarn range, I'll often be the person that kind of oversees that. It's always a good collaboration, but I'm the person that mostly like sort of synthesizes all the ideas into what actually happens, I guess.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what do you value about each other? Because now you've been two colleagues to two business partners.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, Sonia is really good at talking to all of the designers and focuses really on the customer service, which was something that like John and Juliet really focused on. So it's like making sure that the customers are sort of forefront in the business. So yeah, that is where Sonia shines.
Yeah.
You are a good talker.
I don't know when to stop sometimes, but I think we've got really complementary skills, don't we, Helena? Because I tend to gravitate towards anything more creative and
social
and social
media.
Exactly. But then like in terms of like actual nitty-gritty detail or like making sure that things happen exactly on time or to a schedule or in like exactly the same way every time. I think I couldn't do any of those things. And so I'm eternally grateful that you are the way you are because, we just complement each other very well because you're all about consistency and making sure that all the I's get dotted and the T's get crossed, which is
good.
like
not a thing
I
like
can
you.
manage.
You're really great to work with.
Yes, definitely. Someone who's going to be like, well, this is a great idea, but
in reality,
how's it going
let's
to
do
work?
this. Yes. Okay. So what do you both value most about the mill's heritage and what changes are you bringing in as you take the business forward?
Well, we really like the fact that John started the business by rescuing all of the vintage machinery. So that's like a really big focus. And like with the machines all have a personality. They all have a name. So that's like a really big, important thing. So it's really nice to that. Like one example is Gillian, who is this one that you can see behind us. She's 120 years old. She's properly Victorian.
Yeah. She's a real dame.
Yes, she's a skein winder. Like she's been refurbished a few times, but she's like the base of her is cast iron, and then she's just got mostly wood, and that's what gets refurbished every time it sort of warps a little bit. And then she's just run by a really simple motor, so it's really useful for us that like that's something that's really easy to maintain. It's not a big all singing or dancing modern machine that you have to have a specialist from that company come and tinker about in the back. Like everything, we can just open it up and go, it's those gears, it's that bit that needs oiling.
So she's a well-behaved lady.
She is a well-behaved lady. Some of the boys are less well-behaved.
So tell us about the boys.
So we've got 2 spinners. We have Butler, who is he's very special. He's probably one of a kind now because he is a sample spinner. So the bigger mills where they'd have had loads and loads of spinners, but they just want to test something out, they just had a little one. So he's only very small. He can't fit very much on. He can only spin 12 kilos a day, which is not very much.
We don't want to offend him. We'll talk softly.
Yes. So he's very lovely. He's a little bit cantankerous. At the moment, he's a little bit lopsided. One of his chains needs fixing, so one side of him doesn't lift up quite right. So we're all a bit like that some days, but yes. So he's one of our spinners. And our other spinner is Kevin, who is much, much bigger. He's about 40 years old, similar to me. And he came from Scandinavia, from one of the really big mills when they were downsizing or updating their machinery. But he came with a ghost, so a bit of a personality there. Somebody scrawled the name Kevin inside one of the panels. So it's like, well, is somebody called Kevin trapped in here? Or is this Kevin was the one who trapped them in? We don't know. But he's a really, really big machine, so he requires everyone to run him. So like you all have to at the same time to get him set on. So it's like very like, he speeds up during that process. So you've all got to be keeping up with him. And he also, the way that he spins is occasionally he ends up spitting out a bit of fibre if something goes wrong or like a little lump comes through. He's got a bit of a temper. So you have to keep a close eye on him because you can just be like, I'm just doing something over here, and then you turn around and be like, why is there fibre everywhere? So it's a little bit like that. And
and there's a machine behind us. What's that one?
Oh, that one is called Mr. Boyd. He is very cantankerous. So if you want to change the gears on him, it does actually require hitting it with a spanner to change the gears.
Keeping him in line.
But he's what is he really doing? Noisy.
He's plying?
He's the plying machine. So it's lots of different threads being joined together on there, and you have to keep an eye on that because if he drops one, you don't end up with good yarn that's twisted correctly or the right ply. So lots of attention to
and you're also managing the staff, aren't you?
Yes.
So you're keeping them, all of the staff know everything about every machinery?
Yes. So all of the staff that operate the machines, most of them have been here for many years as well as us. And they all know how to look after their own machines and are like learning all the bits of the other ones. This is the legacy from John, is he still comes in every so often when we can't figure out quite what to do, and he'll come in and go, oh yeah, it's that bit you need to fix or whatever.
Oh, so that's great.
But so because they are vintage and you don't need to have specialist like electrical knowledge, like it's easy to train people from scratch to go, here is your machine, learn every part.
And I can really see how your staff are so valuable to you. Like, they are a big part of the actual company.
Yeah, so our focus, one of the things that we really value, like on taking over the business, is that we want to support our staff. Like, we're not in this to make a huge profit. We're in here to make sure the people who work here have a nice life. So that's our
get paid
main
reasonably,
focus. And that they like what they do. So we try to have fun.
Yeah. So how are you bringing? What changes have you brought in? Or are you planning to bring in?
So I think one of the things we really love about those vintage machines is that they've got personality to them. And like Helen has said, a lot of them have their like peculiar quirks, just like most people do. So because of that, it means that they do really have to be watched. So our yarn is not uniform. I think if you were buying like really kind of commercial yarn, it will be sort of exactly the same thickness and exactly the same twist the whole way through the skein, which obviously for some projects is really useful and that's what you want. But we tend to think that yarn like that lacks that little bit of soul to it. So just in the way that the mill and the machinery has got some soul, we also like to think that then translates through into the yarn. So it'll just be a slightly uneven twist, or the color blending will really vary throughout the skein. And we like to think that then when you knit that into fabric or crochet that into fabric, it really shows through and that garment just looks that little bit more special. So because of that, one of the big changes that Helen and I are implementing is that we're wanting to use more local fibre. So because the product's special and we make it here in Devon, we then want to be able to kind of use the sheep from our local area as much as possible. All you need to do is get in the car for like 3 minutes around here and you will definitely see at least one sheep. So
yes, and there's a lot of lambs at the moment because it's that time of year.
Yes.
So are you? And there's also the woolen board just down the road where they're constantly bringing in the fleeces from around the area and sorting and grading them.
That's where we get most of our fibre from.
Yeah, and it's very handy having them just on the doorstep because it means that then, like, in a couple months, once the shearing has happened, we can actually go down there and have a little look at all the grades and see if we like the look of anything in particular. Exactly. And we've got a nice relationship with them. So then they're open to us going and having a look and seeing what we like.
So have you changed up some of the fibre combinations and blends then since taking over?
Yes, we have. So one of the reasons we've done that is because we want to use as much local fibre as possible. Yeah. But the other reason we've done that is because Helena and I are both like completely avid crafters. That's how we ended up doing this, is we're, nuts knitters ourselves. So we had a range that was 100% merino and it wasn't always the most durable. So we've now added a lot of Blueface Leicester to that, which has just made it a more hard-working yarn.
And it's a local Blueface Leicester.
Yes, it's local Blueface Leicester, So all of the British fibre we buy just comes from the West Country, so within like 100 miles of the mill.
And for forehand, just very quickly, I think you were also, or John Arbon was selling finished products and you've changed that now?
Yes. So that actually is something that was a bit more historical. John and Juliet used to sell socks, but they actually sold the sock business around the time they hired me. So they hired me to help them sell more yarn. So that was about 7-8 years ago, I think the sock business went. You remember the socks, don't you, Hels?
Yeah, I'm still wearing some right now.
Okay.
And they're gorgeous socks, but
Okay, cool. So what I have loved John Arbon yarns for years, actually, especially the way they blend multiple colours into a single strand. So now I would really love you to talk about how you create these beautiful colour recipes on your vintage machinery.
So the yarn range that we've probably had the longest and that John and Juliet were really known for is our Knit by Numbers range. That's been around for about 10 years or more now. It's a really lovely range that comes in 115 shades. So the idea is that it's like the paint by numbers that we used to get as a kid, so you can get the exact shades you want. So it's like really useful for things like colour work.
That's the one you changed, the fibre content.
This is the one where we've taken 50% of the merino out and put BFL instead, so that it's a little bit more pill resistant and more local. So this one, it's quite complicated, but also easy for us because it's got 6 different colours in the each shade there. And it's because the way that we run this through our gill box, which is the machine where all of the tops are blended. So if we're blending colours or fibres together, that's the machine we use. Our standard setup is to put 6 rows of tops in. So for us, it's really easy as a recipe that you start with 6, in this case, purple, and then you make that colour, and then you take one of the purple ones out and swap it for a white, and then you get the next one, and then you go all the way down. So this one at the bottom is
4 purple, 2 white, and then this one is
5 white and just 1 purple. So that's how you make the gradient the whole way down. So yeah, great for any gradient projects, or if you need that really specific shade you're looking for your colour work or other things, or just if you really have a very particular favourite purple. So this one we have in a 4-ply and a DK. So yeah, it takes up 2 massive cabinets that you would have seen at the open weekend.
Okay.
So then the next one that is probably the oldest is the Devonia, which is the first range I worked on when I joined 8 years ago.
Okay.
And it is our local wool. It's the first one we did with fully local wool. So this is a blend of the Blueface Leicester and Romney and Exmoor Blueface. So the Exmoor Blueface is our local mule of a Blueface Leicester with an Exmoor horn. So they're all sort of medium luster. So you can see that they've got quite a long staple length, which is good for like the drape, and that's why we use them for the worsted spinning that we do here. So nice long fibres. It makes them really nice and drapey, and but they're still quite soft. And the way we chose the colours for this one, John had seen this tapestry exhibition by Jean Le Cat, who is a French tapestry artist, and it had all these really amazing dark saturated colours, and it's just really very beautiful. And so we were colour matching to this book that he got as a souvenir.
Okay.
And the way that a lot of the tapestries are done is there's like a really dark colour, and then there's a complementary, much lighter colour. So, for instance, on this one, you can see that there's this dark colour that's in there, and then there's the lighter one. So that was where we were trying to colour match to do that. And then, there's also one that...
Gorgeous. Very gorgeous.
Yeah, so there's like really saturated colours, and they all seem to have like a corresponding colour that's either a pair or like complementary.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice way of trying to make a yarn. You can see in this one, for instance, there's the light and the dark blues. So that was how we developed the original colourways for this. So that was a lot of, having a look at really close things in this book and going, was this the right blue? So,
And how many shades in that range?
This one has 20, and it's available in both 4-ply and DK, and they're both a 3-fold. So they've got 3 strands, which means they're really good for like cables or like super drapey things. So like nice for shawls and things. So yeah.
Good. Okay, so what's next?
So next up is our Yarnadelic. And this yarn is probably the first time I think that we really started experimenting with those heathered shades that we're known for now. The fibre itself is 100% Corridel, which is a really beautiful all-round fibre. It's got quite a nice long staple length, and it's gorgeous and soft, but it's still got that bit of durability to it.
Yeah, like people think it's soft as a merino almost,
yes,
isn't it?
Almost, but I'd say it's much stronger because it's got a longer staple length. And it, for that reason as well, it's just a really good all-rounder. So it's perfect for cables. It's got a nice bit of drape to it still. It's very warm. So it's just a fibre that we really love. It runs very happily on Kevin, which is another good consideration. So because we knew we wanted to use the Corridel in 100%, we thought we'd do something really fun with the colours for this range.
Because Corridel's quite light as a fibre.
Exactly. Corridel is a really almost white for a sheep. It's not got that cream to it. So we had a real play with the colours. They are all inspired by different songs, hence Yarnadelic. So it's a little bit funky, this one. And what we did was we listened to lots of tracks. And then if people are familiar with the concept of synesthesia, so it's like hearing colour. So each shade is kind of inspired by a different song. Which is why some of them are quite heathered. So if you look
because everybody had a different colour.
Exactly. Everyone had a different colour in mind, or you could sort of think they go swirling around in your head. So this one, English Sparrows, is a blend of, it's obviously quite an electric green, but the way we make this colour is it is actually a blend of bright turquoise with bright yellow, and then through colour theory, those two will turn into a green. But you can see, because it's just the two colours, there's also this lovely heathering.
Yeah, and you haven't
it.
Blended it completely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've really started preserving. With this range was the first time we tried to get things a bit less blended. And then next to it here, we've got Harmonium. And this is the same turquoise and green and yellow, but we've added a little bit of green just to mute it down, to make it less electric. And then we've also darkened it up with some black.
Okay, so that's why they go so well together. They're essentially got the same original coloured fibres, but different proportions.
Exactly. And then this one's actually a bit more blended as well than the paler one is.
Okay, and you've got 3 tealy colours.
There's 3 teals, exactly. And 3s is always very useful, I think, for knitters, because it means you can do a bit of colour work, or you could have harmonious stripes, anything like that. So we've got our palest one, which is slightly less blended. And
they've got great names. This is
Woman in Blue. And I think it's a song from the 70s, and that she's just got this lovely blue jumper on in the album cover.
Oh,
so
cool.
It works very well. So Woman in Blue is this gorgeous, like, pale kind of shade. And then what has happened is we've just removed the white to create this middle one, which is harmonium. So, oh gosh. So what we've done is we've just removed the white to create Of My Hands, this middle one. And that has also got just the tiniest hint of yellow in there as well, which just lifts it slightly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then here on the end, we've got the darkest one, which we've added a lot of black to. And again, this is a more heathered shade. So you can really, especially in person, you can really see those little bleeps of the very bright turquoise in with the black.
Okay. Now this range here, I think that's one of your latest. That's really not blended at all. So yeah, tell us about that.
So the apple door here, I think after experimenting with blending the shades less, we wanted to really kind of push the machines and just see how far we could go with not blending the colours much. So this range here is called Apple Door, and this is probably our most rustic yarn. It's super hard wearing, and it uses a blend of local Devon fibre, but also a hill sheep. And so sheep that live up on a hill, they have to be more hard wearing because the elements will throw a lot at them.
Yes.
So this has
Even
got some
in
Devon
summer.
close wool. Exactly. Even in summer. Yeah, it's not been particularly sunny this weekend, has it?
Okay.
So the Devon close wool in here really makes it very pill resistant. And these three shades, if you'd believe, they've actually got exactly the same kind of base fibres in them.
And how many base fibres?
So they all have got pink, yellow and blue. And then the middle one, we've added white as well.
Okay.
So if we start with this one, which is Pig Snout, and that is mostly pink. And then we've added that little bit of yellow and blue to it. But you can really see the heathering in there. And then in the middle, we have Quench, which has got a lot of white in it. And then on the side here, we've got Slack McGirdle, and that has got a lot more blue to it. So it almost is tending towards the purple, but not quite.
Yeah. So what percentage of white would you have in this middle one?
So this middle one is, I think it's 75% white. So the white really, you have to add a lot. To make it look like a pale colour, but it still has got enough of that coloured fibre in there to heather through.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. So very quickly, socks, I think.
Yeah, so this range here is our sock yarn, and that is the one yarn we do, which we dye afterwards.
Okay, in the skein instead of in the fleece.
We dye it in the skein, exactly. And that is really hard wearing for socks. It's also our only range with nylon, and it's our only machine washable range because that's needed for socks.
Yeah. Okay, and then...
This one over here is our Harvest Hues range, which is another one of our very blended, saturated, heathered colours. In this one, we've used the naturally dark Zwarbles fibre, which gives it that really...
This
is
colour,
that one there, yeah. So this gives it that really dark, really moody tones to it. It's the one you can see on the machine behind us as well. So,
yeah, they are very smouldering and moody, aren't they?
And again, some of these are not very many things. So this one here is russet, and this one is made using just the dark Zwarbles fibre, and then bright orange and bright green. And that's how you end up with this. It looks very strange when you blend it.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, it's like some of them are very much like that. And then this one, you can't see it too closely, but it comes out as a kind of a dark brown, but there is pink and green in there. You can see tiny little flecks of them.
Yeah.
So again, they've got that same effect.
Which just makes it so interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah. And we love the Zwarbles fibre so much that we also have undyed ranges. So this particular one blends the Zwarbles with our Exmoor Blue Face Mule, and then just hit a nice gradient in there. So we have a lot of customers who really like the natural effect. And these ones smell really sheepy, so some people absolutely love that.
Yes, totally. So what's the ply and the
both of
weight?
these ones are available in a 4-ply, and then this one is also available in a worsted weight, and this one is also a DK weight.
Okay, brilliant. And I think there's another range here we haven't spoken about.
This is our newest range. So it came out in September of 25. So we're still really excited about this one. And it is called Seafarer. And it is our first kind of new silk blend. So it's a range of 90% local Devon sheep fibre with 10% silk. And that silk just really makes all the colours kind of glow and shine. And then
how do the machines handle silk?
They are a little bit temperamental with silk in too high a quantity, for sure. But with just the 10%, they're quite happy with it. And the other thing that's nice about adding 10% silk is it makes it more durable. So it means that you could actually use this as a sock yarn as well. Which is lovely. But again, we've used those really heathered shades, and we managed to make quite different colours for this range, because what we've done with the fibre is we've used the base shades from the Devonia and the base shades from the Appledore, which meant we could just really experiment more than usual because we had different base colours to use.
So you really had a lot more base colours.
Exactly. Okay.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed part 1 of our interview with Sonia and Helena from Arbon Textiles. Running a spinning mill does involve a lot of running around and physical labour, so I thought it was pretty cool when we were there to see that most of the team is actually made up of women. Part 2 of our interview is also coming up very soon, and that is going to be all about how we are developing our very own small range of custom yarns in collaboration with Arbon Textiles. So as you can imagine, we're pretty excited about that. Also, on a different note, we have a special guest with us today on the couch. This is my grandma Josephine. I call her Oma, which is the German word for grandma. And because Ryan and I got married last month, we've had a lot of family visit us from Australia and from his side in the US. And Oma is staying with us for 2 months now, which is really cool because I haven't seen her for about 8 years in person. Yeah, which is pretty amazing.
That's a really long time.
Yeah.
And Mum is also going to come to the Austrian retreats with us, which will be a really nice break for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been to Austria before?
No.
Okay.
That's cool.
So Mum taught me to knit. So we've got 3 generations of passed down knitting. And you might have noticed we're sitting on a new couch, luckily, because we can all fit on now very comfortably. But we thought we should upgrade our IKEA couch.
Yeah.
We've got something slightly better than our IKEA this time, but we're all very happy with it. So
Uma has her own project on her needles to share with you guys, because she previously admired the Good Grandpa cardigan that I was knitting 2 years ago. It's a design by Caidree, and I used the Fleece and Harmony signature Aran weight yarn in the colourway Autumn Birch.
Yeah.
So Uma's got her own version to share with you.
I have been admiring Madeline's grandpa cardigan for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I have decided to do my own.
And yours is kind of softer though, isn't it?
Yes, my version is a little more drapey and a little softer.
Very soft, yeah. And she's done this, actually. She's been sitting here knitting every day and really growing with a lot of progress. This is a really fascinating yarn, isn't it? I don't think you've knitted with this before.
No, it's quite new to me.
It's got a weird construction.
It's made up of fine merino and baby alpaca fibres blown into a cotton casing.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, isn't it? It's hard to think, how do they stay in there? And you can't even see the cotton casing.
No, you can't.
But yeah, and the colour's very beautiful. It's quite heathered.
Yes.
This is a colour that you love, isn't it? And wear a lot of.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
It's a deep sea green.
Yeah.
Yes.
Goes with a lot of your wardrobe. Everyone is going to want to know what you're wearing. It looks really nice. Is this a Carol?
It's a Carol fella.
Yeah.
Yes, it's made with fibre spates.
Okay. Yeah. Do you remember the name of the pattern?
Trail, something about trails.
Okay, we'll have to put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
But
we
it
can
looks
look it
really
up.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a drop shoulder. This is a drop shoulder too.
Yeah, this is a drop shoulder. So this yarn is by the Danish company Kammerosa, who I interviewed the owner of the company, Trina, back in episode 141. And one of Trina's passions is developing new environmentally sustainable yarns. And this yarn that Mum's using is called Snefnug. It's super soft, light, airy yarn, and it's made from, as she said, 55% baby alpaca and 10% extra fine merino. And it has 35% organic cotton. So the core is this cotton netting tube, and then it's got all of this fine merino and baby alpaca that's kind of just blown into this netting. And so it just makes the yarn really, really strong, but at the same time super soft. So you've done a fair bit, Mum. Just say something short about the construction, because I think you've found this quite an easy project, haven't you?
I have. It's quite a simple design.
Yeah.
It's worked top down, in stocking, straight stocking stitch.
Yeah.
And I have knitted the back down to the underarm. And then I picked up the shoulder stitches.
Yeah. From the shoulder seam, yeah.
From the shoulder seam. And I filled in around the neck edge with German short rows.
How did you like German short rows?
Well, you've got to do them when you're in Germany.
Okay.
Isn't that right?
What do the Australians do?
They do them upside down.
They do them down under.
Yeah. And then after you're doing that, you're sort of...
I was slowly increasing it down the front band.
Yeah, because that's going to be like a V-neck.
It's a deep V.
Yeah.
And then I joined under the arm with the front. It joins completely with the back, and away I go. I just go, not round and round, but just along the length of it, back and forth.
So it's plain sailing from now on, isn't it?
Yes.
It really is. You start off with the tricky bit here.
Yes.
We were sort of counting. Mum is sort of a little bit reluctant to do swatching. Maybe that's where I get it from. But she's, I'm fine. I'm saying, Mum, you've got to swatch because the row gauge is important, because this pattern talks in rows, not in centimetres, or it does rows for the front and centimetres for the back. And I'm thinking, you've got to double check everything's right.
Yeah, you do, because the mistake I did with mine was actually I didn't check my row gauge, and I ended up having not a long enough armhole, so we had to make some changes to the design because of that.
Yeah, see, lucky Mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
because in the end I said, you should just add a couple of rows both to the front and
I
the
did,
back. And you
yes.
did.
Yes, because we've chosen the smaller size.
Yeah. But also this yarn is more drapey than your yarn.
Yeah, and it's going to stretch more because it's cotton is the base plus alpaca.
Yeah.
So yours will be a lot looser.
I reckon you'll be finished by the time you go back to Australia. You might be able to wear it home on the trip home.
Yeah. So we are able to produce this show thanks to the crowdfunding platform Patron. And this means that viewers like yourself who enjoy the show decide to make a small monthly donation towards the podcast. And this crowdfunding platform, or this crowdfunding system in general, allows small content creators like ourselves to make a living off the full-time work that we do without being dependent on sponsorships or advertisements. I think crowdfunding is an amazing system. I really believe in it, and it's allowed for so much more diversity within the world of online content creation, because people can suddenly afford to do very niche content like us with knitting. And so we want to thank all of our patrons for making this possible, because of Patreon we can make the content we think you'll enjoy and benefit from the most. We've also been able to highlight lots of small businesses from around the world by inviting them onto this channel to share their work and their expertise with us. We have produced 158 episodes so far. That is a ton of information we've put out there. And if you watch all of these episodes, you will be exposed to the immense and incredible possibilities that knitting has to offer. So once again, thank you to all of our patrons, and if you're not yet a patron, then we do ask that you please support the show by making a small monthly donation. It's really easy. We've got the link in the description box below. Just visit patreon.com/fruityknitting, where you can become a Hebridean, a Merino, or a Shetland patron. Thank you so much for watching the show, and thank you for your support.
And as a thank you to our patrons, we do love to share special discounts whenever possible, and we're delighted that Arbon Textiles is offering Fruity Knitting patrons a 10% off everything in their online store. So that includes all their yarns, their kits and tops. So a very big thank you to Sonia and Helena for this generous offer. So before we get into part 2 of our interview with Arbon Textiles, I just want to briefly talk about developing our own yarns. So launching our own small range of custom yarns is a huge step for us. There is quite a big initial investment and it's such a steep learning curve. There's so much to learn and prepare and set up.
Yeah, we've never sold a physical product like this before, so I've been doing a lot of Googling and trying to... There's no handbook that'll tell you first do this, then this, then this. So you've got to look at it from so many different angles, from the tax angle, from the shipping and dispatch website. So it's just endless.
I've given a lot of that on to Madeline. She's very good at that stuff. But we are going to start small with only 8 colours. But if you only have 8 colours in your range, you have to be extremely deliberate about what colours you're going to include. And I think our yarns will mainly be used to knit garments. So the colours have to be very wearable and not just eye-catching. And I'm sure you might guess that my natural instinct is to just include all of my very favourite colours, very vibrant colours, and not to waste any of these 8 colours on boring neutrals. But that would be pretty poor business sense because we wouldn't be pleasing our customer base. And we really do want to make people very happy with our yarns, and people need neutrals. Yeah. So we've been working very hard on creating and coming up with exciting neutrals that I would actually totally fall in love with. And to my great surprise, we've actually done that. So out of our 8 colours, we've worked on 7 of those colours, and I would say that the ones that I am most excited about are actually the neutrals.
Are they that neutral?
So that has been a relief, I would have to say.
Yeah.
And the way that I have found it the most easiest to think about putting together a colour palette is to think of colours in 3 groups. So you do have your neutrals that everyone needs, and then you have to have some dependable colours that people want to use over and over, and then you can go wild on a couple of accent colours. So like I said, neutrals are really essential. You do need a light shade, something like a cream or a pale grey. And then you need a mid-tone neutral, perhaps a beige or a taupe, and then you need a dark anchoring neutral, like maybe a dark navy or a charcoal. And they just make the range more practical and versatile. And then you want a couple of strong core colours that people often use, sort of like safe colours, like maybe a teal green or a deep red or a denim blue. And then you can have 2 or 3 accent colours which will really bring in individuality and freshness to your range. So the colours that you're just seeing right now are not our final colours. They're just sort of examples so you understand what I'm talking about. So then when you've got your range in front of you, it also has to balance as an overall range and play well together so that you could pick any of the 2 colours and pair them and they're going to harmonise. And that's really good for colour work. And of course, we do hope that some designers would like to design something with our yarns. So we're trying to keep their requirements in mind as well. Yep. For instance, colour work designers often like high contrast in value so that if they're doing a beautiful, intricate motif where every stitch is like a pixel, then that motif is going to stand out very strongly against the background colour. So you need very lights and darks in your range. And then if you've got a designer who likes to do a lot of textured knitting, like beautiful cables and twisted stitches that really show off a 3D effect, light colours are best for that. You can really see the texture fully. But so if you have a dark colour, it will flatten a textured knit, but it also gives it a kind of a sleek, elegant look sometimes as well. And then if you have a heathered yarn, so it reads as a single colour, but if you look closely, it's got really vibrant other colours in it, then all of a sudden stocking stitch looks amazing and it's really exciting. So that's actually one of the reasons why we chose to work with Arbon Textiles, because they have the ability to create very beautiful heathered yarns. So how they do that is once you decide on your fibre blend, then they will dye that in about 6 to 7 base colours. And then you create a new recipe by blending different percentages of those colours together. And that's what we actually did to create our colours. So 2 weeks ago, I took Mum and we went to the UK again. Poor Madeline, she had to stay home and do all the admin work.
Yeah.
And we visited the mill and we actually spent, like I said, a full day and a half in a very small little room, the little office, together with the spinning technician Laura and Sonia. And we were just taking these base colours and taking small percentages of them and weighing them on something similar to what a jeweller would use when they're weighing little tiny bits of gold. So these scales would pick up 2 grams or 1 gram even, the difference, incredible. So we just put a few little fibres on it and it's already 1 gram, it's incredible. And then figuring out the percentages that we would need to create a new yarn, just in a small way. And then we would blend up these different recipes and then twist them by hand into a mock yarn so that we could have a look what is the closest to what the final thing is going to be. And you need to do this because it's very time and cost effective. If you were to do this with all the machines, you're using a lot more fibre and then you're wasting a whole lot of fibre. So our goal was to try to get as close as possible to what we thought was the ideal colour combination or recipe before doing a test spin. And it was really good to have Mum there because Mum is really good with colours. So I had an idea I could bounce it off to her. You enjoyed it, didn't you?
I did very much, yes. And we went outside with our fibres, our samples,
Yeah.
and they were twisted.
Yeah.
And we looked in the sunlight.
Yeah.
And it brought out hidden colours,
Yeah.
which was quite exciting.
Yeah.
And so we would go back and perhaps add just a tiny weeny bit more of a colour.
Yeah.
Or take a bit more of that colour away.
I know.
It was really exacting.
It was incredibly exacting, and it was great to work with Laura because I think that I can be a little bit over the top with attention to detail, but she was just the same. So, because I thought at one stage we brought out a colour, I thought, oh, it's pretty perfect, isn't it? But I said, oh, I won't say anything to Laura, and she came out and she goes, I think it's not quite right. We could, and I thought, oh, cool. It was really fun, wasn't it?
It was most interesting.
Yeah. So I think we've got a little bit of colour in our family. We've always enjoyed talking about colour.
Oh, we have, yes. It comes down from my mother, who had a dress salon for 16 years, and she would go into the capital city and she would have a look at the models parading in front of her and choose colours.
Yeah.
And she was really excellent.
Yeah. She'd be picking clothes for customers, wouldn't she?
Yeah, she would be. Yeah.
And you said that because the town that you lived in or she lived in is so small, she was only allowed to pick one dress in one colour for her shop. And she wouldn't get it in
size.
Yeah,
Per size.
per size.
Per
Okay.
size.
Okay.
So that the customer did not see her twin coming towards her
Yeah.
wearing the same colour,
Yeah.
which would be drastic.
So that was a really fun experience, and you do come away feeling like you've actually created this yarn yourself.
You do.
It was, it was really, really fascinating. And also to see when you're putting certain colours together, is that going to dull it down? Is it going to make it, suddenly come alive? And so I wanted to show you some photos now. These, you're not going to see the real difference between the colour recipes, but just so that you understand the process. So here are some variations of the mid-tone blue that we were trying to develop. So these examples that you're looking at is not the final recipe, but you can see, and maybe you won't be able to see it so clearly in a photo, that the final colour will read as blue, but each mixture carries different amounts of pink, green, yellow and white. So that was our mock-up samples first, and then a few days after we did that, the mill tested some of these colours on the machines, and you can see here they're using way more fibre, so you can see the percentages much clearer. So this is the recipe for the blue, and it's mostly blue, but you do have small amounts of a darker blue, a pink, some white silk, and a touch of green. And this is another example of a bright pink that we're going to develop. I was really inspired by a pink that I had in my new dress. And again, the shades you're seeing here are not the final recipe, but you might be able to pick up that each blend has different amounts of pink, red, orange, white and yellow. And then again, this picture here is when they were testing it on the machines, and you can see bigger amounts of the fibres, and you can really see the luscious colours that are going to be in this one pink. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, Madeline and I really didn't want boring neutrals. So we were focusing on creating our perfect light and dark neutral. So we wanted the light to really shimmer like an Australian white opal, and then the dark to glow with the depths of a black opal. So what you see here again is not the final recipe. That's because Laura, the technician, has actually kept those for reference. But here's a photo of those colours being blended, and you can see that they've got quite strong secondary colours in there, and the end result is really amazing. We're so excited with it.
Yeah, so this is just such an exciting process for us, and we're really eager to share it all with you. Coming up now is part 2 of our interview with Arbon Textiles, where we dive deep into how we're developing our own yarn range. Thanks for spending time with us. It's time for us to say goodbye now, and we will see you again in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that's so exciting, which leads me on to a very exciting project, because Arbon also creates custom yarns for designers and small-scale sheep farmers, and Madeline and I have been toying with the idea of possibly having our own small range of custom yarns, and we have decided to take the plunge. So, using our project as an example, I thought it'd be great to share with the viewers how we would work together to create a custom fibre blend and custom colourways.
Yes, exciting. This is definitely always making new things is one of our absolute favourite bits of the job. Yeah. So it's been such a treat working on you together.
Cool. Well, let's show them.
Yes.
So for commission yarns, we sort of fall between like the mini mills that like take a farmer's like handful of fleeces and make them a really tiny little batch of yarn, and like the really massive mills that are working with tons and tons and tons. So we're somewhere in between that. That's our niche. We mostly work with designers and other small yarn companies who are looking for something bespoke and very British. So we've worked with like Marie Wallen and Daughter of a Shepherd on both of their yarn ranges that they have, and lots of hand dyers as well who are looking for something that's just that little bit different and very unique. That's where we are in the market. And the first thing we do when someone says, we'd like some yarn, what do you want? We go, what is it that you would like? What kind of yarn do you like to knit with or crochet with? And what aspects are what do you like best? What sort of things do you like to make?
So my ideas, which I guess are always going to be slightly flexible, but I think over time my taste changing more. I'm really wanting a yarn. First of all, I know I want a sport weight because I like to knit. Everyone knows I like to knit at a tight gauge, and I often use a sports weight for a fingering weight design because it just gives me an even neater, tighter gauge, and I don't have to mess around with all the numbers and change the pattern. So I know I want a sport weight just for me, but also I think it's great for other people because it's not quite as thin as a fingering, and it's not thick and chunky like a DK. So that is what I'm aiming for. I want it to be really drapey. And because I love to wear my clothes not just out in the farm but also to the opera, and I want to wear it with a sparkly skirt, so it's got to have a shine to it and a drape to it so it can look like evening wear or can look very elegant. That's where I'm heading towards. So I think I need silk.
Yes. Silk definitely will give you that shine.
And softness, but I hate pilling, as you all know as well. So
yeah, that's why we suggested maybe Corriedale, because like we mentioned earlier, it's quite soft, similar to merino, but it's a little bit more hard wearing, quite versatile, and that's what we personally use in our Yarnadelic as well. So like we already like it, we think it's great, and then like you said, silk. We're going to try and put absolutely as much silk as our machines will allow.
Yes. Which we're thinking is maybe 20%.
Yeah, our machines are all set up specifically for wool, so other fibres we have to be a bit more careful with, and silk is very slippy and can be very temperamental because it's so beautiful.
So that slippiness, if I just pull this apart, you'll see it will kind of take off. A little
and now
bit.
It's going to stick to everything.
And it will stick to everything. It gets quite airborne just because it's so fine. Whereas if one did the same thing with the wool, you can see it behaves itself much more. So it's always a little bit of a challenge trying to integrate the silk with the wool, but I guess it's worth it.
Yeah, if we can't quite get to 20%, maybe we stick some blue face Leicester in for a bit of shine, whatever. We can be flexible as that.
Yeah, well, we're just experimenting, aren't we?
And I'm thinking maybe 3 plies, at least 3 plies, because that's good for cables, and it also works for colour work. You can do colour work with anything.
Definitely. As long as it's not superwash. So.
Yeah, and I want drape.
Yeah, so perfect if you want anything that could be lacy or could be cables, and it'll just have really nice stitch definition, which is also perfect.
Or the good old Scandinavian stocking stitch.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 fold Corriedale
good
with silk.
Sport weight. So that's where we're starting with, and then. How many colours? Like, I just want to start off.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we always struggle with because we have trouble narrowing down the colours. But I think really anything under 10, so like 8 to 7 to 9 would be really sensible place to start. You don't want a too small of a palette because then you're not really giving people enough options, and you've got to think that you want to have a colour where everyone's going to fall in love with at least one colour in the range, and hopefully the whole range. But you want to offer enough versatility for crafters.
So I thought I'd start with the neutrals first, which, as you know, is not really my forte because I love bright colours. But you do need neutrals, and I want to please my customers. And then one night I was up till 3 a.m, lying in bed thinking of all these neutrals. How can I make a neutral exciting? And then I had the idea of a white opal, being Australian and all. And so I printed out this big picture of a white opal. And maybe it's also because I'm knitting Madeline's wedding veil and I'm discovering a crew, which sounds very sophisticated, which really just means slightly off-white, but sort of shining and very sort of luminous in a way. So I think for my whitest colour, I want that. And then I just love the idea, as you can see here in this white opal, of having fine flecks of quite strong colours, but it doesn't, if you were to blur your eyes and look at it, it still overall looks like a crew, like an off-white colour. So that's what I was thinking for that, which could be the most challenging one to put together. And then, of course, on the other scale, I was thinking like a dark, I love this colour of yours, but I'm thinking more of a slate grey, but also with some of the specks of colours in it, and I would call that my black opal. And then, of course, I was thinking in the middle of the night, I'm going on the Australian theme, and I totally love this colour, as you all know. And I thought that's really so similar to the Kookaburra blue. So I definitely want that. And as Madeline's wedding, this is not going to be my mother of the bride dress, but almost. But I adore this colour. It's a shocking pink, but it's got a tiny bit of yellow in it. And I thought, okay, I know I can't have all bright colours, but I would like to have maybe 3 bright colours and then have some neutrals on either side of that. And so I thought, and you can also see in this opal that both of these colours feature in it. And then when you showed me this, I just jumped on it and thought, oh, I adore this minty colour.
Yeah.
Absolutely adore that. And you can also see that that is also a fleck in that. So there you go. They're my wishes.
It's perfect for us when people actually have wishes. I think then we have something to work with. So it's been such a fun project. I think one of the more challenging things for us is when people aren't sure what they want. So it's wonderful that you and Madeline have got a vision, definitely. So
what would we start on? I think this is going to be the most difficult one, isn't it?
For this one, where you want just a really tiny amount of flecky things. So we've got a couple of colours like this, one in the Yarnadelic and one in the Appledore. These are both about 25% colour.
Yes.
So you want it sort of about half that much. So like much closer to 10% or even
that's
less
still
maybe.
too dark for me.
Yeah. So in order to do that, what we were saying before about like with the knit by numbers where we put like 6 different ends in, we'll probably put in like 5 of them will just be white with the silk blended in. So it will just be
corridor.
this. So that kind of thing. And then what we would do for the very last one is we would have one that's just got a little bit of pink and a little bit of the blue and the mint and possibly some other colours.
Possibly the tiniest fleck of this, just the tiniest fleck.
So Sonia will show you how we make up the actual like test ones of that, but that is basically we would just run a little bit through, so it would just have a very small slither of it going through there, so you just get that little tiny bit of flex. So that's one of the ideas we have of doing it. So that's what you've got over here.
Except for, can I be bossy?
Of
and
course.
change,
That one in.
and take that one out and put some of my
blue out.
favourite.
There is some green in there.
There's
There
a
is
bit of green, but we can add
and
a
maybe
little
take
bit
the
more.
orange out.
Remove the orange.
And
There we go.
And then we don't have blue, do we?
No.
Oh,
We can
okay.
pop a bit of blue in. At the moment, I've got some
There you go.
and some blue as well.
So
This is how we go about kind of creating some colour recipes. So I've got a couple that I tried making earlier, and these you can see they're really lustrous. They've got that silk in them, which is gorgeous. So you can see just how much all that fibre shines. And this is the 20% in here.
And what she's done here, she went through and wrote all the percentages. So it might be like 20% silk and 60% white corridor, and then just, what does that make it, 20%?
20% less of colours,
20% colours, exactly.
And then different shades, and they all have a tone to them, don't they?
They do. So part of the conversation then is finding the undertone. So, and I think you said you wanted this colour to read a bit warmer rather than a little bit cooler.
Oh, that I'm not sure. It needs to read more...
Food for thought.
Needs to read more cream overall, because it's going to be the lightest colour.
Yes. So the way I make these, we call them little floofs, the way you make one. is what you will do is to get the exact recipe. We have some little scales and we will weigh out, as we just did earlier, we will weigh out small quantities of fibre until you have a recipe you think you like. And then it's a case of just starting to blend them together. And we do it by hand at first. And you can see it's already starting to blend. And then once you've done it by hand a little bit, what you'll do is you'll pop it onto the hand carders.
Now,
but
that's
you can
great.
see just even through what I've done there.
This is what I like. Because you see, we've got actually quite strong specks of it. It's not heavily blended. But overall, you can see this cream is very dominant.
Yes.
That's what I like.
Exactly.
I'm going to be so fussy, I can tell. You're going to hate me. But that is looking like that. You see what I mean? Like it's cream, and then you've got a fleck here and a fleck there occasionally.
Yeah.
So there's different, I guess there's different ways of being able to do that.
So part of what it is the machines naturally will then blend this much more than one would by hand. So we've got some examples here from our Seafarer range, and these are the twiddles that we made. And if we look at this one up close, you can see it's got quite big kind of chunks of that mint, and then a little bit of the yellow, the occasional sliver of silk. But then if we look at the actual skein, it just ends up being that bit more blended.
Yeah.
And that's just because the machine is more precise than one would be by hand. But we can definitely do what we can to try and preserve that flecky colour.
So I'm thinking for my strong colours, that's great. A blend like that is beautiful, and I'm totally happy. So for this colour, for instance, would be surprisingly quite a strong pink like that, with then a little bit of yellow, maybe a tiny bit of this.
Yeah. Either a little bit of yellow, or it looks like it's actually orange coming through.
Yeah, that orange and a bit of this, and maybe there's a tiny bit of
the yellow.
So these, just say something quickly about these. So these are different base fibre blends, aren't they?
Yes.
So these ones are the colours that we currently use for our Corriedale. So it's what we make our Yarnadelic from. It's also the same colours we use in our Devonia range. And then these ones over here are what we use in our Appledore range. So you can see that these ones are much brighter and poppier, and these ones are a lot more muted. So these ones, they're not designed for the in-your-face colours quite so much.
And the way to kind of help show people that difference, could you pass me the palest skein? So this is the beautiful ones, which is our off-white in Yarnadelic. And then this is a similar shade in the Appledore. And you can see, because these base Appledore colours are punchier, it's just reading a little bit brighter in the Appledore shade Quench.
So this one is using those, which is with this much sort of darker kind of raspberry red colour. But then this one is using those. So you can see that they are much sort in-your-face colours.
Yeah,
exactly.
So essentially, you'd never get this colour from blending here because you don't have as bright a pink out of this range.
One like this.
Yeah.
So one can always mute the colours down by adding either a brown or a black, but you can't pump the colours up. So in order to get what you're after, what we will have to do is dye up some new base colours. But that just, then there's more fun to play with. So nothing wrong with that.
This will be a new base.
That will be a really nice one.
Yeah, so we'll dye these two. And I think actually we've decided that the Appledore pink will work.
That would work.
So we'll get this colour matched onto the Corriedale.
Okay, that's cool. So just having a look at this, I'm really stuck on this. Another suggestion we talked about is that we could even do a mild effect, like if we had made this one a 4-ply, for instance, we could have 3 plies of the pure
Just the
white, and then 1 ply would be sort of like something like that, but it has a tiny bit of this, and this in it, or that, and then that would give those flecks of colours, but less.
And I think that would also make this such a unique yarn, because I can't think of anyone that is doing something similar to that. So
I'm hoping, because
Lots of different
we're
ideas.
going to do some experimenting.
Yeah.
But we do have an illustration
Yes.
of what that marl would look like. It's backwards, so folks
Yes.
will have to imagine a little. But these two marls here, which are part of our daisy marls, so these have been very handmade. And the way that these are working is they are both two ends of a dyed, quite a dark dyed colour, blended with one end of a natural. So what we could try and do with yours is the opposite of that, where it's two of the natural and one with that dyed.
Exactly. So everywhere you see these little white specks, that would just be the little colour, and all the other dark is the beautiful ecru.
Exactly. And these are both 3-plies. So that means that a third of these ones is that natural white, whereas we could try it the other way around.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. So that's really interesting. But it is interesting to see that you can make so many different colours just with these bases.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
And
definitely.
that's what you've been showing us here. And this is just small percentages of colour put in.
Yes. And they're all ever so slightly different, but they will all have the same. So I've made all of those colours there just by blending these colours here with the white. And you'll see how different. This one's quite like lime green. This one's a bit orange. This one's quite teal. So there's so much opportunity to experiment by just using a very small amount of colours.
So if I've got a few of these bright colours as my, so this is my light, and then I've got my version of a dark, which will be more slate than that, but we just put that as that's my dark neutral, my light neutral. I've got some really poppy colours here. These colours have some variation on a minty. And then I think it's nice to have like a couple of more calmer colours, maybe. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like this, for instance, I could have something that was a lighter shade of this, something in between what this will be to that, and then another darker. I was thinking maybe of a darker tealy, cool teal blue.
Everybody loves a dark teal. They're always some of our most
Yes.
popular colours, aren't they, Hels? So I think some kind of dark bluey teal shade would be really nice, because it would also just pop so beautifully against this really bright peach too.
That's true. That's really true.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we start. And so then the next thing is you're going to get these bases dyed, and then I think we're also going to take home some of these so Madeline and I can do some carding. And
you can make your own kind of
Yeah.
experiments.
see what we think. And then you will, what's the next stage?
We will then work out what the formula is that will actually go through the machine, because obviously these formulas are just percentages, but our machine, you have to run it through several times. So you need to know exactly how much of each colour to run through each time to get what you want.
And the machine goes in 6s as well.
So we actually need to split it into 36 rather than into 100 like you would for a percent. So there's a little bit of maths involved. And then we try putting some through the machine and see what happens.
Okay, very exciting.
Yeah, and then we do little trial spins, and then after the trial spins, we can look at the results and decide if it wants another tweak or if we're happy with it. And that's how we'll work our way through all of the colours on the list.
Yeah.
So
we'll try this one with the blending method first.
Yeah.
But then, as we were saying about maybe doing a marl, we can then take just some white and then a little bit of the one that we've tried blending and just use the one and see if it looks nicer as a marl. So you can get an idea
and then
of
obviously
which
knit
effect.
it up and see what it looks like knitted
Yeah,
up.
lots of swatching to do.
yeah.
Wow.
That's exciting.
It is very exciting. It is very exciting. It can keep you up at night, that's for sure. So what I just also want to wrap up the interview on is you've just finished hosting your annual meal open weekend where Madeline and I were there. It was very, very beautiful. So talk about what was on offer over the weekend and also how this event supports the meal and the community.
Well, we have mill tours. It's the main reason that it's the open for the mill is that you can come here and you can see everything in the mill.
Yeah, meet the machines.
We're a factory, so the rest of the time we do not allow the public in here because it is not safe. They're not very dangerous machines, but still, we don't when you're going, oh, that's pretty, and then losing a finger. So that is the main reason that we started doing these way back when. But now we've expanded out of the mill into a whole new venue, and we run talks and classes, and we have a cafe, and obviously we have our shop where you can buy everything that we sell. And we also invite some of our friends from other traders to come along and sell
other
their
vendors.
things. Yes, so there are a few other vendors who are selling like complementary products as well. So like cute little accessories or like knitting books, or we had somebody this year who was selling lots of vintage haberdashery, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
So what kind of talks and classes were on this year?
So this year, so the other thing which we haven't mentioned at all is we actually make tops as well, and that is for hand spinners. So all of our yarns are also available unspun for folks who want to either spin or felt themselves. So 2 of the talks were run by Bex of Tiny Fibre Studio, and those were both spinning. So we always have intro to spinning, because spinning can be one of those things that's a bit intimidating when people are first starting out. I think a class is really helpful. And then we also had a class that was for more experienced spinners, which was about like spinning for purpose. Because I think with spinning, it's a bit like driving a car, and one can get into a groove and then you just make the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So this was thinking how to spin a thicker yarn, or maybe how to spin a yarn with more twist for socks. So those were the 2 spinning classes. And then we also had 2 knitting classes, which were taught by Amanda Jones. And one of those was about making a sweater to fit your personal body, which I know is always a very popular topic. And then the other one was intro to sock knitting. So socks can be a bit complicated, turning a heel, etc.
And both of you did a talk together on creating your own custom yarns.
Yes. So this year, our special that we did for the open weekend, we actually got all of our customers to vote on every process that we went through. So everything we've just said about how we work out what it's going to be, they got to vote. So they chose which fibres went in, they chose what colours went in, they chose the colour palette, they chose the colour pop that went in the colour palette, and they chose all the names, so the whole way through. So we did the talk explaining that whole process. So that was what was on offer from us. And then we had another talk which was all about the science of natural dyeing. Someone came out of that and said it was a bit like high school chemistry. It did look quite scary, but it was really interesting.
That was Sinead from Gull Rock Studios, who's lovely. So the other thing we tried to do with the open weekend is we work with people who are also based in the West Country. So it's quite nice. It's a little slice of
the community bringing together.
Exactly.
And it was in an absolutely stunning town hall.
Yes.
I have to say.
Yes, it's the 17th, 18th century assembly rooms in South Molton. So it's like, imagine you were going to a ball in a Jane Austen film.
Yes.
That's the kind of vibe. It's very pretty. And all the classes are in the mayor's parlour, and they're like oil paintings on the wall. It's very
and the talks are
fancy.
in the courtroom.
Yes.
Which is really gorgeous.
Definitely.
Okay, it was a really, really fun weekend, and it's going to be fun to continue to work with you. So, and of course, thank you so much for giving us your time today to interview you.
Well, thanks for coming along. We've had a great time.
Definitely.
Good. Let's say goodbye to the audience.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So water looks like this really calm substance, but in there it is mad. It's a frenzy. And you can see this poor little blue blob in the middle is being surrounded by these crazy water molecules. If we take mordanting, we're using a metal salt like alum to form a bridge between the dye stuff and the fibre. So now we've got our wool. Okay. The wool structure is a long chain structure. It's got these functional groups on the side. The functional groups are negatively charged, and they, once we add some alum in, the aluminium ions, which are positively charged from our mordant, are then attracted to these negative functional groups on the wool. There's no point in adding too much alum or too much dye stuffs because there's only a certain number of those sites, those charged functional groups that they can stick to. Okay, so now we've got our long chain amino acid, our negative functional groups, our mordant in solution, and then we've got our Himalayan rhubarb, which also has these side groups, which are also charged negatively, which go, ha, I found myself some lovely positive aluminium ions in this solution, so I'm going to stick to them. So now we've got our mordant literally biting into our wool and into our dye stuff, and it's holding it on.
The reason they have names is because this is a GN4, that's a this is a GN5, that's a GN4, and that's a GN4 next door as well. That's boring. So this is Cuthbert, this is Ralph, and next door is A2D2. Every one of our machines has a name, and they're all for a reason, but I couldn't tell you what they all are. Some of them I can, but not all of them.
The gill box is actually doing three things at the same time for us. It's blending those colours together. It can also blend different fibres together. Importantly, it's drafting the fibre out, which means teasing the fibres past each other. So we're going from a thick stream of fibre at the back to a thin one at the front. And it's also straightening out the fibres, so making sure they're all really nice and parallel, which is really great for spinning, part of what makes us a worsted spinning mill, and it makes your yarn really smooth and soft and lovely. Here we're making the first blend, what's called a first gill, of Knit by Numbers raspberry, number 1 to 8. And while it's running, it makes this lovely ice cream swirl of fibre as the can and the coiler are both turning around. So from here, we have to go through a couple of machines before we get to the spinner.
So this is what's called a draw box, and it's drawing the yarn apart. So as it comes into the back end here, it goes into a roller, and then it has a roller at the front, and in between it there's a gauge, an ambular gauge, and that distance between them is enough to allow the fibres to separate. It doesn't stretch them, it literally teases them apart. One of the things we have to do is keep the moisture in the fibre. So we spray the fibre a lot before it goes through the system. So we're looking for it to retain between about 7 and 10% moisture. So it gives it that flexibility to roll through, and also reduces the amount of static in it, which is pretty important to us. So as he comes out the other end, he's going down through here, he's running through these spindles. It's being powered underneath and it's rotating around, and it's got a lifter system here. You'll see going up and down to gradually feed it onto the bobbin. This is stepping down from a fibre top to what's called a heavy roving, and the next machine steps down from a heavy roving to what's called a pencil roving. And why do we do that? Because we need a lighter roving to get onto the spinner to make it work on the spinner. If it's too heavy on the spinner, it can't draft it through.
This is our smaller spinning machine. It's a ring spinner called Butler, named after his previous owner, and he's about 55, I think, now. Getting on, but a really trusty machine. There used to be hundreds of these in Yorkshire, and now this is possibly the last one in the world, so we take good care of him. What he does is he takes this roving that we've made and it runs through a set of rollers, much like we've seen before. So you have a slower first roller and then a faster final roller. So it's drafting out between those two rollers. In the middle, again, we've got a little ambler that just controls the draft by keeping a tiny bit of pressure on the roving. And then when it pops out the second roller, we insert twist into it and it becomes a single ply. So if we set the gears correctly, we can make our single ply exactly the right thickness. And that's how we know that your 100 gram skein of yarn is exactly the right length of yarn.
So this is Boyd. He is one of the oldest machines upstairs. He is probably from about the 1960s. Boyd is a folding machine, which is also the same as plying. We take 3 of the singles we spun downstairs and twist them together in the opposite direction to how they were spun to form our plied yarn.